Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Gananaham Tva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamasnavastamam Jesharajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anasranvan Utibhisri Dasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajinivati Dhinama Vitrayavatu Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Sasivardham Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopasantaye Yasya Dvirada Vaktradhya Parishadhya Parasatam Vignam Nighnanti Tatatam Vishvaksenam Tamasraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheswaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvandi Divyaistavaihi Vedaihi Sanka Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Na Vidhu Sura Sura Gana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Now with Bhagavan's grace, we completed 15th Adhyayam, and now we'll begin 16th Adhyayam. Daiva Asura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. Before we begin that, there is a short discussion that takes place between Arjuna and Krishna, and it's a very, very interesting discussion. That also a similar question also occurred to one of the attendees who shared that with me via email. So I want to point it out. I want to direct your attention to Slokam number 11 to make sure that we understand what Bhagavan is saying, when Bhagavan's teaching is, and how well Arjuna understood it, and how well are we understanding it. Let's go back to Slokam number 11. And Slokam 11 in 15th Adhyayam, when you see that, it talks about certain type of people are able to experience Bhagavan and certain types of people are not. Right? Akrutatmanaha, yatantaha akrutatmanaha, na yenam pasyanti achetasaha. So Bhagavan talks about that. He tells Arjuna, unless you make the disciplined effort according to scriptural prescriptions, and he's going to emphasize this again in the next chapter, in 17th chapter, unless you take this practice very seriously and follow that very diligently, how can you really know the inner reality? And people who do not do that, who fall short of that, and they talk about they really don't know what they're talking about. They talk about impermanence as being permanent and nothing else matters in the world, etc., etc., And so how can they experience the reality? They don't. Achetasaha, right? Na pasyanti. And that is very important. And Bhagavan says the yearning to know this reality, he says, comes of Daiva Sampati, the Godward attribute. And the Asura Sampati, the demonic tendency, is the opposite tendency that makes a man argue that he has known when he has not, which keeps him away from all attempts to know, and then which induces him to establish untruth as truth. When Bhagavan was explaining this teaching in Slokam 11, we passed through this. I don't know how many of you understood the difference between people who experience and Bhagavan says and people who do not experience. But Arjuna caught that. And because Bhagavan also now continues in Slokam number 13, if you look at Gam Avisya Cha Bhutani Dharayami Aham, right? I am the one who's supporting everybody, everyone on the earth, in the universe. I've entered that and supporting everyone. So how can there is an inherent conflict here, which probably some of us missed, but Arjuna did not miss it. So he asks Krishna, says, Krishna, how is it possible that you say only some people see you and some people don't, whereas now you also say that you are the supporter of everything, and now I'm getting confused. You're saying there is Daiva Sampati, Asura Sampati, and on another hand, you're saying that you are the supporter of everything. So which part of your teaching that I should accept and which I should reject? I'm really confused. Please tell me. And then Krishna laughs. He said, this question is very, very strange. He says, he tells Arjuna, you say that I never speak a word that has no meaning and never do a deed that has no significance. Yet, you worry over which one of my teachings you should accept and which one to reject. This is a senseless anxiety on your part. He says, Arjuna, Devas and Asuras are not two separate entities. They are not two separate distinct groups. They are so divided only on the basis of the distinction in characteristics. And then Bhagavan goes on to describe, and that I will pass, and he talks about how the gunas themselves are delusional or artificial, and it's the underlying basis that is permanent. The example he gives, let me not pass it, it's very important teaching, so let me continue. If you look at clay, you can use the clay to make a pot, you can make it clay to use a pan, or you can use the clay to make a plate also. So the pot, the pan, and the plate all look different. But that is not the reality. The reality is they are all one. The clay, the underlying clay, is the reality that is the truth. Even though the appearances are different, there is underlying unity. So to understand this unity, the thing that exists in all the three gunas, at the same time, the clay is not touched by the pot or the pan or the plate, because clay remains clay. Same way, the rasam, the essence that is common, that is one with all the three gunas, is not touched by the gunas. That is Bhagavan. That underlying basis is me. And that is what Bhagavan means when he says, Gam Avesyami, right? Avishya, Chabhutani, Dharayami, Aham. So, Bhagavan explains it in a little bit detail like that. Now, this brings Arjuna to the second question. Now, he's not that he's confused. All the questions that Arjuna poses are for our benefit, for people like you and me, and that's why the questions are posed in different ways to answer different people's questions. You may not have this question, somebody else may have. Like in our group, one of them had the question. Not everybody had that, right? So, it's always like that. There are different questions in different places that occur to us, okay, different people. But Arjuna asks all the questions. And next question he asks is, Swami, if that is the case, if you are the basis and everything else is just an appearance, and then you say that you are the one supporting everything, then what is the relationship between you, which is the truth, which is the reality, which is Satyam, and Prakriti, your Swarupa? Prakriti, the nature is Bhagavan's form. So what is the relationship? And then Krishna says, Arjuna, have I not explained that to you? I just explained to you that the Prakriti, the nature is made of the five elements, Panchabhutanga. And then Arjuna says, yes, that is true. But then, if the Panchabhutanga, the five elements are there, then there is really nothing without that five, isn't it? That means, how can I deny the existence of the five elements? He's asked the question. See, his questions are all very sincere and really going to the root of the subject instead of accepting something that is superficial. He says, if I accept the five elements, the Panchabhutanga, as real, because they exist, then where is the reality? That is his question. Then Bhagavan explains to him very clearly, yeah, but you see, Arjuna, if you accept the 5, then you have to go one step deeper than that. Because each of the 5 elements actually has, there's a 5-fold proliferation. And I won't go into that in detail because unless you want, we can discuss that. So that comes to a total of what they call as 25 tanmatras is the word that is used. The reality is, as described in Upanishads, okay, each of the 5 elements actually proliferates in 5 different ways. So there's 5 times 5, there is 25. Now, how do I understand this? Forget that teaching for a minute. It may sound very complex, but simplifying that and bringing that on a personal basis is very simple. And Bhagavan explains to us on a personal basis as he's talking to Arjuna. Look, even among the 5 Panchabhutas, the 5 elements, the earth, water, fire, and air are evident and perceptible. But the sky or the ether, the akasham, is not perceptible. But that is the basis of the remaining 4 that are perceptible. Same way, in our own being, mind, our manas, our buddhi, the one that discriminates between the right and the wrong and the permanent and impermanent that we can experience, our chittam, which is our memory, and our ahamkaram. I am the one doing this. It's me, that feeling that we have. All these 4 are perceptible to us. If you just pay attention, it is perceptible. There is something that is thinking, something that is desiring thing, that is something that says, don't do this. There is something, that memory we have, and something that says, I am doing it, automatically. These 4 are personally we can experience. But what is the basis of these 4? That is called antakaranam. That antakaranam is the basis, but that is not perceptible to us. That antakaranam, the basis, is what Gam Avisya. That's what Bhagavan supported. He says that your conscience, your consciousness, both, okay, that is me. That's the support that I'm giving you. And then Bhagavan explained. He says, don't confuse what is being supported in the world with the support. The supported has got various tendencies and characteristics and impermanence. But what is constant underneath all that is not touched by what is being supported, and that supporter, the basis of support, that is me. That is in Sanskritam, it is called adhara. Adhara is the support. Adheya is the one that is being supported. So do not confuse the adheya with the adhara, Bhagavan says. And the Godward bound tendencies, the Daivik Sampat, is the one that desires to, that's impelled, that seeks to know the adharam and does not mix up the adheya and the adharam. Whereas the Asuric tendency takes the adheya, the supported, as the truth and builds castles on that basis. All the arguments, everything on that. They forget the adharam. That is the basic meaning behind Slokam number 11 in chapter 15. Now, when Arjuna hears this, very intently he is listening. And then he says, but Swami, you said that it is the inherent quality of nature, the characteristics, the qualities of a person, the qualities that distinguishes these two, the Daivik Sampat and the Asuric Sampat. It is not 2 separate groups, it is not 2 separate beings, but it is inherent characteristics. That's what Swami said. So what are those qualities that distinguish the Daivik Sampat and the Asuric Sampat is a question. Now, please clarify that to me. Please teach me that. And then Bhagavan answers. And that is the very first, his answer begins with the very first slokam in chapter 16. And what we will do, we will take 1, 2, and 3 together in chapter 16, Slokams 1, 2, and 3, because Bhagavan answers what are the qualities of a Daivik Sampat, the divine attributes, Godward bound attributes. How do you know whether you have a Godward bound attribute or not? You can check against the qualities that Bhagavan is going to list right now, enumerate. Embracing divinity through the knowledge of divine and demonic qualities. Chapter 16, Daiva Asura Sampat Vibhaga Yogaha. Vibhaga, distinction, division, differences. Okay, that's what it means. Sri Bhagavan said, absence of fear, purity of emotions, fixation on the unity of all creations, and practicing that to embrace the indweller, charity, control of senses, sacrifice, recitation and study of the Vedas, penance, simplicity and straightforwardness, non-violence, truth, absence of anger, renunciation, inner peace, refraining from scandal-mongering or talking ill of others, compassion to all beings, not seeking what belongs to others, sweetness and gentleness in speech, humility, determination, courage, forbearance, firmness, cleanliness, harmlessness, absence of pride. These are natural for the one born with divine qualities, my dear Bharata. I'll read the 3 slokams and then we'll go through 1 slokam at a time. Abhayam Sattvam Samsuddhihi Jnana Yogaha Vyavastitaha Danam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayaha Tapaha Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodaha Tyagaha Shantihi Apeshunam Daya Bhuteshu Avalolutvam Mardavam Hrihi Achapalam Tejaha Kshama Dhrutihi Saucham Atro Adrogaha Na Atimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. I'll read it once more and then we'll go through slokam by slokam. Abhayam Sattvam Samsuddhihe Jnana Yoga Vyavastitaha Danam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayah Tapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodha Tyagaha Shantihi Apaishunam Daya Bhuteshu Avalolutvam Mardavam Hrihi Achapalam Tejaha Kshama Dhrutihi Saucham Adrogaha Natimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijadasya Bharata. Slokam number 1. Abhayam Sattvam Samsuddhi Jnana Yogaha Vyavastitaha Danam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayaha Tapaha Arjavam. Abhayam Padangal are Abhayam Sattva Samsuddhi Jnana Yogaha Vyavastitaha Danam Damaha Cha Yajnaha Cha Swadhyayaha Tapaha Arjavam. Abhayam. Abhayam means fearlessness. Sattva Samsuddhihi. Sattva the Abhayam means fearlessness or actually absence of fear. Fearlessness means it assumes that there is fear and you do not have the fear. But Abhayam, Abhayasta Bhagavan gave is a stage where there is no fear. Fear doesn't exist. So it's absence of fear. And Sattva Samsuddhihi is purity of emotions, purity of feeling, purity of thoughts that we have. Jnana Yogaha Vyavastitaha. Jnana Yogam is what? Jnanam, as Bhagavan taught us earlier, we don't have to get confused or frightened with that Sanskrit word. It is very simple. It is not in a knowledge. Basically, it is an awareness and a being, an experience of unity, of seeing the one in everything. That is jnanam. Yoga, we have covered that, is obtaining that experience or seeking to experience the experience and practicing the necessary disciplines to achieve that, and the process is also called yoga. And with that, vyavastitaha, established in that. Okay, so fixation on the unity of all creations and practicing that to embrace the inner indweller. Then dhanam is charity. Damaha. Damaha is control of senses, withdrawing of the senses from the sense object, controlling it. Withdrawing does not mean that you are negating the senses. No, absolutely not. It is the senses are allowed to do their job, which is to seek out their sense object. Ear is geared and its job is to hear sound. Nothing wrong in hearing a sound. But when we say controlling the senses, is two things. One is allowing the senses to deal with the sense objects in a very measured way, very little bit. Yeah, you hear something, fine, move on, but don't pay any more attention to it. So that's where the withdrawal comes. So it's controlling the senses so senses do not overplay. And next one is yajnaha cha and yajnam. Yajnam is sacrifice. And what is it, sacrifice? As one of you asked a long time ago, we covered that earlier. It is ultimately sacrificing the feeling that I am the doer. But before we get there, deliberately and consciously and continuously offering everything to Bhagavan. Whatever we do, whatever we don't do, whatever negative thoughts come, positive thoughts come, doesn't matter. Keep on offering that to Bhagavan. Yajnaha cha. Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means a study of the Vedas, reciting the Vedas, and that's very important. And then tapaha. Tapaha is penance. Penance does not mean standing on top of a blazing fire or on one leg and denying yourself food and all that. That's not what tapaha is. Okay, tapaha simply means it's a purification process in the mind. We have to keep on purifying the mind of thoughts that do not belong there. And again, how can we do that? Only by directing the mind continuously and constantly. Not continuously may not happen, doesn't matter. On constantly and with determination towards the lotus feet of Bhagavan. That process will automatically purify the mind. That process of purification of the mind, by directing it to the company of Bhagavan, by directing it to love Bhagavan and to take it to the proximity of Bhagavan and to the lotus feet of Bhagavan, whatever you like, okay, there you start developing love for God. And that process is called tapas. Tapaha, arjavam, very important, very, very important, very easy to practice, arjavam, and it means straightforwardness. Just as a child, a newborn child, really does not know how to lie. A newborn child, before it turns mischievous in 2 and 3 and various other things. But before that happens, it's very straightforward. It plays no games, no agenda it has. Very straightforward. This is the way the rishis those days used to parasparam talk to one another. In a very straightforward manner. That does not mean you are hurting others. Okay, that's very important discipline. You need to able to speak, for example, in a straightforward manner, but without hurting others or yourself. And that automatically comes when you constantly seek the company of Bhagavan. So arjavam is straightforwardness. Straightforwardness is very, very important in practical life. Slokam number 2. Ahimsa satyam akrodaha tyagaha shantihi apaishunam daya bhuteshu avaloluptvam mardavam hrihi achapalam. Ahimsa, non-violence. How can I not hurt somebody? This looks so impossible, right? Even when I take one step forward, I may be hurting, so many living things under my foot. That's why the Jainism was born. So how do we do that? Ahimsa, is to constantly think of Bhagavan and offer everything to him. Then the responsibility is his. Satyam, truth. Very important, truth. And Bhagavan will describe in Adhyayam 17 a bit more about this. So let's wait to hear him. Okay. Akrodaha, absence of anger. Absence of anger. Again, how do we develop this on a personal basis, on a practical basis? We will cover that maybe hopefully next class. Okay. And tyagaha. Tyagaha again means here it's not so much as sacrifice. It is the English word normally used is renunciation. But how do you renounce something? It's not possible mentally to renounce something unless you attach your mind to something else. Then everything becomes renounced. And attaching to Bhagavan's lotus feet automatically enables you to renounce the other things because you can attach to only one thing at a time. Shantihi. Shantihi is mental peace, peace of mind, which is what we are all seeking, right? And we are looking for it in the wrong place. That Shantihi, the moment you start looking to Bhagavan and start loving him, automatically one of the results will be Shantihi. Apaisunam. Apaisunam is very important. We should not talk ill of others, especially in their absence. You know, it's a great sin to talk ill of others, and we should not engage in scandal mongering or talking ill of others. I mean, that's a very simple, practical. Even if you don't take any other lesson from this, that is one of the simplest things to do. Arjavam and Apaisunam to do in one's life. Okay, we can develop that very easily if you put your mind to it. Daya bhuteshu. Bhuteshu daya. All the beings, daya, compassion, sympathy, empathy, to be able to see what somebody else is suffering through, to be sensitive for that. It is very easy to do. Just open your eyes to it, it will happen. Avaloluptvam. The loluptvam, let me tell you, and then avaloluptvam will become very clear. Loluptvam simply means when you see an object, immediately you want to have it. You want to acquire it. You want to experience it. Or when somebody else is enjoying something, and then you also say, no, I need to have that. That thing is called loluptvam. So the absence of that is called avaloluptvam. And it basically not seeking what belongs to others. Margavam. Margavam is mrudu tanmay that you would have heard. Margavam, it comes from there. It means to be able to speak in a sweet and loving manner. Very sweet disposition, not only speech, but the disposition itself is very sweet and pleasing and soft. Hrihi, very important. Hrihi means humility. What type of humility are we talking of? It is in Purusha Suktam it says the Hrihi is very important. Ishtate, Lakshmi, Chapatnyo, those of you who know Purusha Suktam know that. And Hri is humility. That's one of the most important attributes as one starts on the spiritual journey. Is when somebody it's not shyness. It is like not advertising yourself. Now, even if you accomplish something great, do something good, keep quiet. It's all Bhagavan's doing, and enjoy that process. Give the credit to where it belongs. The credit belongs only with Bhagavan. And achapalam. Achapalam means the determination in the mind. There is strength in the mind. Mentally very strong. If I've undertaken this, I'm going to follow. I'm going to seek the lotus feet. Very strong in that. That is achapalam. Let us do one more slokam. Slokam number 3 before we conclude for today. Tejaha, Kshama, Dhrutihi, Saucham, Adrohaha, Na Atimanita, Bhavanti, Sampandam, Daivi, Abhijatasya, Bharata. Tejaha. Tejaha means generally it's classified as strength. But what is the actual strength? What is, not strength, courage. Tejaha is the English word generally used is courage. Balam is strength, okay? And where does the courage come from? It is the courage that whatever happens, whatever disaster comes, whatever unpleasant things comes, whatever happens, even somebody praises you or doesn't praise, it doesn't matter. That mental strength of this is Bhagavan's work, Bhagavan is taking care of everything, I'm under his protection. That faith gives you that courage, that teja. Automatically it starts, the faith becomes stronger and stronger. Automatically there is a tejas around, there is a glow around people who are really, really attached to Bhagavan as Kanchi Paramacharya was. Okay, so that is tejaha. In another meaning is really illumination and light and all that. But that is that light comes from this courage, which is rooted in unshakable faith in Bhagavan. Kshama is a very important attribute. It's really forbearance. And forbearance means it's not really bearing everything that is happening. That is sahana. That's a Sanskrit word for that is sahana. But kshama is actually more than that. And the forbearance is even when things happen that you cannot bear, and if you have the power to remove that thing that's happening, and still you bear it, not use that power, okay, and say, yes, this is Bhagavan saying, I'm bearing this forbearance. And maybe when somebody does something hurtful to you, for example, right? And it's easy to talk back, it's easy to play tit for tat, whatever it is. Instead of that, the bearing that you undertake silently and deferring that to the lotus feet, and that is the beginning of forbearance, beginning of kshama. And dhrutihi, determination, unshakableness, strength, the firmness, that is dhriti. Saucham is cleanliness. First is the physical cleanliness, keeping things, ourselves clean, our body clean, the extremities of the body clean, and the surroundings of where we are at any time very clean. That most of us do. And then the second thing that indicates that is the mental cleanliness, which we saw earlier. That's Sattvam Samsiddhihi. That will result from that. Saucham. Then Adroha. Doesn't matter what others do to you, but we should never hurt others, never harm anyone, even when we are provoked. Right? That tendency, which is again, as you can see, is a direct result of kshama. When you have kshama, automatically you will not harm anyone. You will just bear everything. And then next one is na atimanita. Now, this atimanita is a very interesting thing. As the manam, like we saw earlier in Bhagavan, one of the adhyayams, that indicates pride. Ati means great. Na atimanita means lack of pride. That's what it means. Lack of pride. Whatever you do, Bhagavan is doing it. That again, it's related to sincere, real humility. When there is He present, automatically Natimanita will be there. So all these, Bharata, Bhagavan says, Daivim Sambandham, with associated with the divine quality, divine attributes. Whoever is born with divine attributes, for them, bhavanti, it is natural to them. Bharata, that's what Bhagavan says. So let's read the string slokams and then we'll conclude for today. Abhayam Sattva Samsuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavastitaha Dhanam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyaya Tapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodha Tyagaha Shantihi Apaishunam Daya Bhuteshu Avalolutvam Mardavam Hrir Achapalam Tejaha Kshama Dhrutis Saucham Adroha Natimanita Bhavanti Sambandham Daivi Abhijatasya Bharata. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Samasta Lokaha Sukhino bhavantu samastalokaha. Sukhino bhavantu samastalokaha. Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.